Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. That was a dear teacher, Rav David Zeller. Rav David Zeller. Rav David Zeller. I'm alive. That's his nigan. I am alive. I'm alive. I strongly recommend after Shabbat to check David Zeller, Rav David Zeller. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, wherever you are. Very special Shabbat. Every Shabbat is very special. Very special Shabbat. Parashat Vayechi. And he lived. Interesting. This is like Parashat, the section of the Torah, like Hayei Sarah, the life of Sarah, that really says Hayei Sarah, the life of Sarah, but it's talking about the death of Sarah. It's talking about the death of the matriarch. Today it's talking about the death of Jacob. Sí, es el primer Shabbat del 21, first Shabbat of 21. I'm forgetting to translate into Spanish, so forgive me. So let's start. Empecemos by sitting with the back straight, sentarnos con la espalda derecha. In this creative tension between relaxation and alertness, en esta relación creativa entre estar relajados y alertas. And by being fully present, y al estar totalmente presentes, we declare our intention to be here. Declaramos nuestra atención al estar aquí. Estar presentes, to be here, to be present. And usually what we do to exercise our attention, our kavanah, is to pay attention to something and to come back over and over again. Le prestamos atención a algo y volvemos a eso. And the mind gets distracted because this is the job of the mind. Y la mente se distrae porque ese es el trabajo de la mente. We come back again and again to the place of our attention, al lugar donde descansamos nuestra atención. Our attention is resting. I invite you to pay our attention in the sounds of nature. The sounds of nature wherever you are or wherever it's coming through the mic. The cicadas are loud. The birds are singing. The rush of the river. Las cigarras, los pájaros, el ruido del río. Let's pay attention to the sounds of nature, and when the mind wanders off, we come back to the anchor of our attention. Y cuando la mente se distrae, volvemos al ancla de nuestra atención. It's a way of saying we are not our thoughts, and we are not also our feelings. No solo somos solo nuestros pensamientos y nuestros sentimientos, emociones. Total presence. Presencia total. To be here and now, through the magic of the internet, connected wherever we are, conectándonos desde donde estemos. Let's connect with the concept of Lev Taor. Lev Taor Berali Elohim from the Psalms. Fashion a pure heart for me, O God. Create in me a steadfast spirit. Do not cast me out of your presence, or take your Holy Spirit from me. So let's connect with that purity. Conectémonos con esa pureza. With that place of abundance. Con ese lugar de la abundancia. Where we are wholly naive. Donde somos naive sagrados. Like a baby where everything is possible. Como un bebé donde el mundo es posible. Still to be discovered. Lev Taor Berali Elohim Beruach Nachon Chadesh Bekirbi Al Tashlicheni Milefanecha Beruach Kodshecha Al tikach mimeni lev taor berali Elohim veruach nachon חדש בקרבי אל תשליכני מלפניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממני יררה 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 Yarararara, yarayra, yarayra, ayrayra, yayay, arararayra, yarararara, yayray, yarararayra, lev taor berali Elohim. ורוח נכון חדש בקרבי אל תשליכני מלפניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממני. Fashion for me a pure heart, create in me a steadfast spirit. Do not cast me out of your presence, or take your Holy Spirit away from me. Left האור ברא לי אלוהים ברוח נכון חדש בקרבי. And yes, this is the first Shabbat of 2021. Este es el primer Shabbat de 2021. And we have these two calendars that we live by in so many ways as Jews. Dos calendarios por el cual vivimos. One is the Jewish calendar, which is the spiritual path of our lives, the path of Teshuvah, of return, the constant return of holidays, of Shabbat. And then the secular one, which is about activities, things that we do, how we show up in the world. 2020, bye. We want to not forget you. We're not going to forget you. What a tough year. What a tough year. So if we can recover a sense of purity for 2021, in which way our naivete was crushed, how can we embrace positivity and hope and construction and kindness in a world that is so complicated, divided, and so many people still sick, and with all these crazy theories floating around? Oh my God. To come back to some sense of sanity and togetherness. Left Haor, bring me a pure heart. Left Haor, ברא לי אלוהים, ברוח נכון, חדש בקרבי, אל תשליכני מלפניך. ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממני. Let's just have a kavanah. Let's have a kavanah for this first Shabbat of 2021. And I invite you to think your own kavanah. In which way we can recover the tahor? In which way we can recover the purity? ¿En qué forma podemos recuperar algo de pureza? Algo de creencia, algo de pureza, algo que nos eleva, something that elevates us, elevates humanity. What could it be? ¿Qué es lo que puede ser aquello que nos eleva? Let's have an intention, a kavanah. Tendremos una intención, una kavanah. Prestarle atención a cada uno, qué es lo que, what is it that you would like to bring to this new calendar year? What ingredient of purity, qué ingrediente de pureza traer? Shabbat Shalom. How's everybody? Are you there? Espero que estén bien. Espero que estén bien. And Sydney's there. We have a special guest today. Rabbi Sydney Means is going to give the Dvar Torah in a little while from Emmanuel Temple in San Francisco, but she's here. Shabbat Vayechi, so charged. So I always like to start with some aspect of the Parsha. Sydney is going to focus on something else. And we have, the Parsha starts, Vayechi Yaakov ve'eretz Mitzrayim sheva esrei shana v'hei Yaakov shnei chayei hayu sheva shanim v'arbaim u'mea shana. And Jacob lived 17 years in the land of Egypt, so the span of Jacob's life was 147 years. Jacob vivió en Mitzrayim 17 años y la vida de Jacob fue 147 años, but in the Hebrew doesn't say 147. It's different. It gives a division of this 147, but we're not going to get there. Pero no voy a ir ahora ahí. But says, Vayechi Yaakov, and Jacob lived. Jacob vivió, Jacob el profeta, el patriarca, perdón, que vivió y que tuvo estos hijos. Estamos en la historia de Jacob and Joseph, and we're in the story of Jacob and Joseph. So, Vayechi Yaakov, and Jacob lived. That's verse 28, and then verse 29. Ba'ik Rabu Yemei Israel Lamut. And when the time approached for Israel to die, he summoned his son Joseph and said to him, do me this favor, place your hand on my thigh and pledge a steadfast loyalty. Please do not bury me in Egypt. He's asking me to take him to the land. So, I just want to point out to one aspect. Quiero prestarle atención a algo. Vayechi Yaakov, and Jacob lived, and when the time came for Israel to die, one verse next to the other, meaning we live, nacemos, we were born with a name that was given to us, con el nombre que nos dieron cuando nacimos. Vaikrevu Yemei Israel Lamut. But when the time came for Israel, which is the second name of Jacob, when Jacob wrestled with the angel and was changed, Y cuando llega el momento de morir, and when the moment to die arrives, it's not Jacob anymore, it's Israel. He was born as Jacob and he dies as Israel. Él nació como Jacob y muere como Israel. And it's such a profound teaching. Such a profound teaching. We don't die only when our time comes with the name that was given to us. We die with the name that we generated for ourselves through our actions. No morimos por el nombre que nos dieron, sino con el nombre que nos hicimos a través de nuestras acciones. And there's so much trauma in the story of this patriarch, and the story of Jacob, the story of Joseph. Hay tanto trauma. And there is a poignant moment, un momento muy hermoso, when Jacob summons in his deathbed his children, Joseph's grandchildren, and he gives a blessing to the grandchildren. Y da una bendición a los nietos. A blessing that we still use today. He decides to leave this world, blessing. Decide irse de esta tierra bendiciendo. So let's continue with the path of gratitude. As a way of saying there's a choice how we live, and it's a choice how we die. Sometimes. The truth of the matter, the message is we have to imagine that we're going to die at any minute. So to live a life of blessing. Imaginarnos que podemos morir en cualquier momento, entonces vivir una vida de bendición. Let's start with gratitude. Modeh moda ani lefanecha. מלכי וקיים, שחזרת בי נשמתי, בחמלה רב אמונתך. And let's pay attention, what is it that we are grateful for in this moment, in this Shabbat Kodesh, in this Holy Shabbat. ¿Qué es lo que estamos agradecidos? In spite of everything, what are our blessings? Like Jacob gave blessings. What are the blessings that we count? To start to 2021. Para empezar el 21. So let's start with chanting the Modeh Modah for women, Modeh for men. And then sit in silence for a moment to pay attention to our gratitude. Modani lefanecha, modani lefanecha, modani lefanecha, modani lefanecha, modani lefanecha modeani lefanecha. What is it? Where is it? Where is it that we're grateful for? Por lo que estamos agradecidos en estos momentos. What are we saying thank you for? שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, for the capacity, for the opportunity to have another opportunity, compassion, for the opportunity to have another opportunity in life. שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, Rabba Munatecha, you're faithful beyond. There is a part of us that deserves the faith of God, that we can do and make a difference, que podemos hacer una diferencia en el mundo, that we can do a difference in the world. Shechazarta bi nishmati bechemla. In compassion, in compassion, in compassion. Return our spirit in compassion. Let's pay attention to weather with the birds. What is it that we are grateful for? Junto con los pájaros, aquellos por los cuales estamos agradecidos en estos momentos. Hope is a practice. Hope is not only a feeling. La esperanza es una práctica, no es solamente un sentimiento. כי עמך מקור חיים ואורך נראה אור. For you is the source of life. In your light we see light. כי עמך מקור חיים באורך נראה אור. It's about light. Where do we see the light? The end of the tunnel, there's a tunnel there. Look how beautiful. My tunnel. You like it? Tunnel behind in the middle of the forest. And there is light. We have to imagine that there is light. In your light, we see light. So it's a connecting with the capacity to see the light. Es conectarse con la capacidad de mirar la luz. It's about what are the stories that I allow myself to listen. ¿Cuáles son las historias que me permito escuchar? What are the things that I allow myself to watch, to see? If they put me into a basket of despair or a place of hope and contribution. כי עמך מקור חיים באורך נראה אור. For with you is the source of life, in your light we see light. כי עמך מקור חיים, כי עמך מקור חיים, עמך מקור חיים, באורך נראיו. For with you is the source of life. For with you is the source of life. For with you is the source of life. In your light do we see la ad kimcha מקור חיים, kimcha מקור חיים, kimcha מקור חיים. In your light we see la ay 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 yararay ay 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 araray ay 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 araray ay 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 yarara ay 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 arara ay 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 arara ay 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 ay. In your light we see light. It's about elevating the conversation. When the conversation has gone down to the lowest common denominator of no aspirations and no hope and deal-making and suspicion and anger and confrontation, it's a heroic act to visualize the light. Es un acto heroico visualizar la luz. To say, I'm not going to buy into this. I'm not going to be part of this. So we imagine the light. Even if we don't see the light, we make an effort to see light, to see hope, to see justice, and to, of course, do something about it. Y desde ya hacer algo al respecto. In your light we see light. And the prayer in the morning says, ואני וחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך, אשיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. ואני וחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך, אשיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. I have trusted in your love. I will rejoice in your saving power. I will sing to you. You have been bountiful to me. So it's about love. It's about love. It's about chesed. It's about loving kindness. It's about the salvation that enters when we participate in love. And I know love has been so misused. Yo sé que el amor ha sido tan usado y reusado y reciclado. Well, it's a cliché, but must be a cliché for some reason. ואני וחסדך בטחתי, I have trusted in your love. It's putting the trust in love, and in this case, in the love of God. In something that comes from a higher source, from a deeper source. And inspires me to come to connect with that love. So let's sing to love. Cantémosle el amor. Let's sing to the capacity to love in spite of so much hate. To see the holiness of the other in spite of so much division. To mirar lo sagrado del otro, a pesar de la división. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך. השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. Let's do it together. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך. השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, השיר על אדוני, כי גמל עלי. ואני בחסדך. Let's connect with the love inside of you. Conectémonos con el amor que está dentro de nosotros. Ashir al Adonai, Ashir al Adonai, Ashir al Adonai, ki gamal alai. Ashir al Adonai, Ashir al Adonai, Ashir al Adonai, ki gamal alai. Connecting with love. What is the alternative? What is the alternative? If not, what is the alternative? Shabbat Vayechi, so complex. The death of Jacob, the death of Joseph, where you're going to be buried, the issue of legacy. How do we overcome trauma? And one of the Torah gives a lot of examples of this. Through reconciliation, to talk, to conversation, and the last moment, through blessings. To choose a life of blessing instead of a life of curses. Elegir una vida de bendiciones en vez de maldiciones. And we need strength. Necesitamos luz, we need strength, we need light, we need imagination. And in Shirat Hayam, in the Song of the Sea, there's this sacred phrase. Está esta frase sagrada, Ozi vezim radia vayeli lishua. Comes from the Song of the Sea, Parashat Veshalach, but is there in the service. So I invite you to feel, where do you feel weak? In your discipline, in the amount of news that you watch, too much sugar, too many walks to the fridge. I don't know. Where do you feel weak and you need strength? Where do we need strength? In this moment, as God willing, the vaccine is going to be out there for us to return to some type of normalcy. Who knows what the new normal is going to be? La vacuna está ahí. Si Dios quiere, vamos a poder volver a algún tipo de normalidad. Quién sabe cuál es la nueva normalidad. But let's look in 221. Where do we feel weak? ¿Dónde nos sentimos un poquito débiles? Because we all feel weak at some point in something. Todos nos sentimos débiles en algo. And we fall into patterns of behavior that are not healthy. Y caemos en patrones de conducta. So let's sing to our weakness. Cantémosle a aquello que es nuestra debilidad. Let's sing to our weakness to elevate and transform that energy into power. That I learned from Rav David Zeller, that today I was singing 2 songs, 2 melodies from him. And remember when we were talking about this, he said he has the same type of addiction that I do, which is to ice cream. Tiene el mismo tipo de adicción que es al helado. So he said, okay, one way is to say this is an addiction, whatever. Another thing is, okay, there is something powerful there, que es this pleasure in this taste, in this cold thing. So what can I do with this concept of pleasure, he was saying. So we had a very funny conversation about ice cream. One day I'll go there. But he was saying, let's take the energy of our weakness to see how can we transform it in something where we derive strength. Si podemos tomar la fuerza que viene de nuestra debilidad para transformarlo en algo que nos da fuerza. Ozi vezim radia vayehili lishua. 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 Let's make it more specific. What I'm looking for at those moments. Let's imagine, where is it that we need our discipline? If we could have an extra dose of discipline in this moment, where will we be allocating it? Si tenemos una dosis extra de disciplina in this moment, knowing that God willing, the vaccine is there and maybe social distancing is going to be less, who knows? But what I'm saying is sometimes we get loose when we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So why do we need our discipline in this moment? ¿Dónde podríamos sostener nuestra disciplina en estos momentos? Just pay attention to that. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. Sing toward discipline. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. Let's sing to our strength, to our discipline, and let's inflate our discipline. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. Ozi vezimradia vayehili lishua. I'm going to ask a difficult question. Does anybody wants to share? Where do you want to strengthen your discipline? Remember that all the comments are public. This is Facebook. Whatever you say is read by the people who are here and the hundreds that watch it later. So just if you want to share something like I did with the ice cream, you know, and because we are in this incredible village, I found ice cream that is gluten-free and vegan and delicious, if that is possible. So, and almost sugar-free. So I can eat with less guilt. Although also I reduce my amount. So anything, some people, whatever you want to share, some people told me about the amount of news the people are watching. Alas. Noticias. You know? Too much. Too heavy. Too much. So I want to deep dive a little bit more in Torah. And there is such a poignant moment in this parsha about Joseph. And I have a very dear guest as we're becoming new friends. Rabbi Sidney Mintz from Temple Emmanuel in San Francisco is here with her wife Ellen. And you know, we have even a Shabbos Chabura. And she is in person. So I'm going to move and Sydney, we cannot kiss. So she is here to take us a little bit deeper in a journey, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting here. There's another chair. Rabbi Sidney Mintz.
So you should all know you're in very good hands in case, something happens with me. Your Rebbe is right here, holding the space for all of us in the jungle. And First thing I wanted to say is what I posted, what an incredible blessing it is to be here with a beloved mentor and new friend, here with Marcelo and with Karina, actually live from this beauty. And when I'm looking in this jungle beauty, I think of the Garden of Eden. And at the same time, I want to say how inspiring it is to hear these words of hope for all of us, that we are coming from and going from a hopeful place. And as I was listening to Rabbi Bronstein, I was thinking about the verse from Zechariah, from the prophet Zechariah, who talks about what it means to be a prisoner of hope. The prisoner of hope. In some way, each one of us, each one of you, wherever you are, we're all in little boxes. Could we have ever imagined feeling hope, living in a little box and not being able, as my friend said, to hug or kiss one another? And then the hope is that we continue to reach one another in this way through Torah, through friendship, through love. And as I think about 2021, woke up yesterday, it didn't feel that different from 2020, but there's a sense of hope, of opening, of light, of coming out from darkness into light from a tunnel. And of course, I have to share before the Stavar Torah what it's like for me to be here. I went to rabbinical school at Hebrew Union College in New York, and one of the most important moments for me was to learn tefillah from your rabbi, from Marcelo Bronstein, because I was a lot younger, he was a lot younger, I was a student, and it was no secret that for most of the students, our favorite place to daven was B'nai Jeshurun. And so you've had this blessing also, so many of you for so many years, to be able to learn from his heart and his wisdom. And so for me, it's been an incredible blessing to get to know him a little bit better here in the jungle in Costa Rica, where my family and I are on sabbatical. Marcelo talked to us about Vayechi in the way we lived, in the way they live. And I always love to think about Torah not only as something that happened 2,000 years ago, but what is Torah happening for us today? How is it alive in the world? And that word Vayechi that talks about the life of Joseph, the life of Jacob, and he lived, always reminds me back to our ancestress, Sarah, Chaye Sarah, when it talks about Sarai, she lived 127 years. And our ancestors, Jacob and Joseph, lived 111 years and 147 years. That expanse. Moses, it was said, lived ad mea v'esrim, and we dream about the years that we have ahead of us. Probably not many of us will make it to 120 or 111 or 147, but what does it mean to really live? Unfortunately, Sarah, she dies in her portion. She's the only woman who gets her own parsha, and she dies in her parsha. And so really it's who comes after her, and how does she live on? How does her memory live on? Through those who come after Sarah. And we are visiting now the people who carry her memory with them, Yaakov and Yosef, through their life, through their children and grandchildren, and then through their death in this portion. It's like a double whammy of a parsha, because a lot of people are born, but two of our patriarchs die in the same parsha, which is a great sadness, and we are all so profoundly tapped into the sadness of this year, of going on 10 months, and the losses, as Marcelo mentioned, the trauma of what it's like to be living in this moment, and also the gift that we have of memory, of hope, of looking forward to the future. And about a week ago, Rabbi Bronstein and I studied a little bit about someone who we didn't realize was a dear friend of ours from the text, but someone who has inspired us. And this is someone who is mentioned in the Tanakh and then is brought forward for hundreds of years, this mystical power. I know a lot of people were really looking forward to the movie about Wonder Woman this year. At the end, Wonder Woman 84. I didn't see it, but I heard it was very disappointing. So I always go back to this ancestress of us, the ancestor Serach Bat Asher. And I want to talk to you about her for just a moment. Serach Bat Asher is who she is. She is the daughter of Asher. And Asher is one of Joseph's brothers, Jacob's son. And so Serach Bat Asher is the granddaughter of Yaakov. And it is said that in the moments before he was about to bear witness to the fact that his son Joseph was not dead, had been alive for all of these years, Joseph's brothers didn't know how to let him absorb the trauma, in fact, of the fact that his son was still alive. And so they went to Serach Bat Asher and they say, can you sing, can you play music to comfort his soul, to let him know that his son is still alive? So she shows up first in the story to keep Jacob, to keep her grandfather comforted and healed. She's a comforter, she's a healer, she's a singer, she's a musician. And she first appears as the comforter and the healer, the supportive granddaughter. And then she moves away from that into this intense mystical tradition where she keeps showing up. And the two places I want to bring us to is from Shemot Rabbah and from the Talmud Bavli. And in Shemot Rabbah, she comes forward to bring redemption. And you always need somebody to be holding your hand, to be getting you closer to redemption. And I love that Marcelo talked about our addictions and what is holding us back, what is holding us as prisoners very specifically at this time, but that there are always people, sometimes on the other side of the screen, who are there for you, who are bringing you forward. They don't even have to be alive anymore. I have conversations with my father all the time, and he left this world 1.5 years ago. I know that our ancestors are right there with us. Even Serach Bat Asher, who is brought forward over and over again, she comes to me, and she's going to come to you today. So in the first Midrash from Shemot Rabbah, the question is, how did the people actually believe in the fact that Moses was going to lead them out of Egypt? And Serach Bat Asher is called the carrier of memory. She is the one who Jacob, after he is blessed with her words and blessed with the sustenance she gives him to endure the fact that he has suffered a loss that actually wasn't true and Joseph is still alive, he blesses her and says, you will never die. And I think that's so profound in a portion where Jacob and Joseph both died, that her blessing is she's going to go forward, she's not going to die. And in Shemot Rabbah, I'll read you a section of it, it says, there was a secret sign handed down to the Israelites in Egypt, a legacy left by Jacob, who entrusted it to Joseph, and he again to his brother Asher, who handed it down to his daughter Serach. She was blessed with longevity, and she was living when Moses made his appearance before Pharaoh. If you know anything about the Tanakh, we say, En mukdam ve'en me'uchar b'Torah, which means there's no early and there's no late. And certainly Serach Bat Asher, she just keeps living for hundreds of years. And we say, okay, that's believable because they needed her. The tradition was that the one who appeared in Egypt as the messenger of God, who was going to show up and be the redeemer, the one who held the hands of the Israelites and took them to freedom, would use the word pakad, that God remembered where they were and saw what was done to them in Egypt. So they would understand that that was going to be the person. And so when the elders bring Serach Bat Asher to Moshe, and he uses the word pakadati, that word pakad, at first she says before she hears it, that's Narishkeit. Who is this guy who showed up to help us? He's not bringing us anywhere. Until she hears these words that were transmitted from God to Jacob, to Joseph, and finally to his brother and his daughter. And she hears the word pakadati, and she said, that's it. That's the one who is going to help bring us from slavery to freedom. And the people believed that God looked down upon their affliction. They bowed their head and they prayed to God. But without Serach Bat Asher, they would have never known, they would have never believed in Moshe. And I think it's pretty profound that the elders knew to go and to get her, and that she came forward. And in that moment when she came forward, she is brought back again because Moshe understands how powerful she is carrying these memories. And without the memories, without the bones of Joseph, in fact, that Joseph made the Israelite people promise that they would take with them when finally we had the opportunity to go from prisoners, to go from slaves into freedom, into the light. Without those bones, the Israelites couldn't leave. And so in the moment, finally, after Pharaoh went back and forth, a hardened heart, he finally says to Moses, all right, get out of here. You can finally go. You've caused so much sorrow to me and my people. Get out of Egypt. Who does Moses call? Who does Moses call? Moses calls Serach Bat Asher. And he doesn't send somebody else to go and get her. He himself goes and gets Serach Bat Asher, the daughter of Asher, the niece of Joseph, the granddaughter of Yaakov, who is mysteriously still alive. And in Talmud Bavli, this is not some esoteric midrash way, way out there that this feminist rabbi, this lesbian feminist rabbi from San Francisco is pulling to you. This is from the Talmud Bavli. How did Moshe know where Yosef was buried? They said, Serach Bat Asher remains from that generation. So Moses himself goes to her and says, "Do you know where Yosef is buried?" And she said, "Yes, I do. The Egyptians buried him in an iron casket and placed it in the Nile so that its waters became blessed." So that in itself, I think, is incredible. The Egyptians understood how powerful not only Joseph was, but how powerful the God of all is. And they, in a way, just in that action, either rejected Pharaoh or rejected their Egyptian God and said, there is something bigger. There is something that is more transcendent than just what we believe. There's something that everyone needs to believe in. And it became embodied in this metal coffin of Joseph's that was buried at the bottom of the Nile. Moshe went, stood at the banks of the Nile. He said, just imagine this visual. If you're a visual person, imagine there's Serach bat Asher standing next to Moshe. She's been alive for way more than 170, 147 years, 120 years. She's been alive for hundreds of years. Maybe she's standing there in body, or maybe like our ancestors have gone before us, she is only there in spirit. And Moses says at the banks of the Nile River, and this is when I actually think of Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments, says, Yosef, Yosef, the time has come that the Holy One, blessed be He, swore that He would redeem them. He would redeem us, bring us out of the land of Egypt. The time has also come for the oath that Israel swore to bury Joseph in the land of Israel. And here we go back with Yaakov and Yisrael, what Marcelo was talking about, the different names that we have, the different identities. If you show yourself well and good, if not, we are free from your oath. If suddenly this coffin were to rise up, then we can take the bones of our ancestors with us into the promised land. If not, we're free from your oath. And in that moment, according to this portion from the Talmud Bavli, Joseph's metal coffin, the casket rises to the top. Serach bat Asher is there witnessing, and Moshe, and they take the coffin and they take the bones of Joseph, this promise that was made generations before, that they would not be redeemed without the bones of their ancestor. And so I wanted to just say how important it is for us to take the bones of our ancestors, whether they're our actual ancestors or like Serach bat Asher, who was there to be a comforter, who was there to heal her grandfather's pain, but also who was there to lift us up like a Wonder Woman, like the princess of power that she was. And the rabbis understood, I think, that women were also going to need to understand themselves as powerful in the story. And so in this story, Serach bat Asher is seen by many generations personally to Moshe as part of the redemption. Yes, we have Miriam, but Serach bat Asher is brought here so that we can actually get out of slavery into freedom with the bones of our ancestors. And so I told Rabbi Bronstein I would only go for about an hour, hour and a half myself, and so I think my time is almost up. And I just want to say thank you so much for absorbing my Torah. I'm not going to go away so fast. You know, this is like a Jewish goodbye. I'm going to keep saying goodbye, and then you'll see me an hour and go, what is going on? Why is she still talking?
Because I have a question.
Okay, so Rabbi Bronstein has a question.
Can we be?
Yes,
yes.
I always like more than one rabbi because it's like two rabbis, 7 or 8 opinions are going to come out.
No,
yes.
First of all, I am so moved because we have a look also now like a Shabbos Chabura. After this, we're going to be for 2 hours also singing and talking. But and last Shabbat we brought Zerach bat Asher. So I love the what you're bringing. Also, I love the idea that you revive the midrash of the bones. So we spoke about trauma. You know, I think 2020 is going to be we're going to be PTSD.
Mm-hmm. We already are PTSD.
We're
in it.
We are in it. So we are with this post-traumatic syndrome. So, and I love this woman. You know, I love what she brings, the music. So just to make it, of course, we are modern midrash. What would be Zerach bat Asher music now? You know, what would be she telling us as we embrace a new possibility, a new beginning, knowing that we are in this moment in a traumatic, and I don't think, you know, we are in a traumatic situation as humanity. Forget about just countries, as humanity. So what Zerach bat Asher, what you imagine, she would tell us?
That's a wonderful question, Marcelo. I go back and forth because I think that when you were teaching last week about her power as a healer, as a singer, as a musician, that the words of comfort and healing, we don't need to get rid of them when we pull forth other power, our power of memory, our power of actual, like, muy fuerte. That's all my Spanish. Muy fuerte. I translated something, at least in Espanol. Marcelo knows I have a problem with the language, and I told everybody how embarrassed I was, and then they said, "You're pregnant? Embarazado? What?" And I said, "Okay, I've got to go back and learn a little more Spanish." So muy fuerte. So we are women and men both have their own unique strengths and capacities, but we need to bring forth all of our strengths. So the words that I think that she would bring forth if she came to this generation, and she was the third chair sitting here, come from when we end the Torah portion, which we traditionally say. And I think she would say, chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. That is what she would give us today, which is actually what we will say at the end of Vayechi, at the end of this parsha, at the end of Genesis. We say, chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. And it says, be strong, be strong. Nit chazek, we will be strengthened. And I think Shabbos brings us strength. The bones of our ancestors bring us strength, even from the midrash of having the shattered tablets that we bring forward into our present and our future. The shatteredness, the PTSD, the actual trauma. If you don't break down, you can't get up. So I think she would tell us, chazak, chazak, and she would have her own beautiful melody to nit chazek, so that we will be strengthened together. And it's all the strengths, the healer, the comforter, the singer, the bearer of memory, the bearer of trauma and of grief, to come through the tunnel and come back to light as a community.
Shkoyach.
Yeshkoach. Thank you for the great
Yes.
opportunity to all of you. It's wonderful to meet all of you. And as you can see, you still have such an incredible blessing. And it's a miracle that we're all able to be together.
Yeah.
So I'll see you another Shabbat.
Okay.
I'll give you back your Rebbe.
Thank you. Thank you, Sidney. Thank you. Yasha koach. So beautiful, so powerful. Zerach Bat Asher is an amazing woman who lifts our spirits and remind us what is important. I hope you were going to be able to look for her, this mythical figure. So, Jerry asked a question. Don't the bones of our ancestors also hold us back? And I'm sure we could have conversations. Yes, yes. But freedom somehow lies in embracing all this complexity. So I want to invite you to, first of all, to download this beautiful piece of Torah from Rabbi Sidney Mintz from Temple Emmanuel in San Francisco, here with us in the jungle, and now with you wherever you are. Just let's bring the Zerach Bat Asher. Let's bring the Zerach Bat Asher teaching from Rabbi Mintz. Thinking about the power of the melody of hope, the melody of our ancestors, the melody of complexity that could be overcome. Beautiful. Beautiful. So I invite you to bring the names of the loved ones, of yourself, for healing. Let's pray for healing. Vamos a rezar por la salud. Por la salud. We're going to use Karina's interpretation. It's going to be El na refana la, refana lo, refana li. Heal her. Heal him. Heal me, each one of us. So please share the names if you have authorization. Share the names si tienen la autorización para poner los nombres. Let's remind ourselves that whatever we put here is public. Que todo lo que ponemos aquí es público. So people that we put their names out there has to be in agreement. That it has to be okay. We pray for healing, for hope. The Zerach Bat Asher spirit thank you for bringing your names. We sing together and we pray together. You could keep bringing the names. Elena Refa Nala Elena Refa Nalo Elena Refa Nali Elena Refa Nala Elena Refa Nalo Refa Nali Refa Nali Elena Refa Nala Elena Refa Nalo Elena Refa Nala Elena Refa Nalo Refa Nali Elena Refa Nalo Refa Nali Elena Refa Nala Refa Nalo Refa Nali Elena Refa Nali Yarada Yarada Ya 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 Yarada 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 Ya 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 Yarada Ya Yara Ya Yara Ya 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 Yarada Ya 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 Yarada Yarada And let's bring ourselves to the memory of our loved ones Those of you who have to say Kaddish, if you're able, please rise. Those who don't have to say Kaddish, please be in a place of memory. Remember the loved ones that you have said Kaddish for. Let's bring the memory of our loved ones to say Kaddish. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביום איכון, וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו, אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עולמי, יתברך וישתבח ויפואר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו, מילה עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשוש וחטא ונחמתה, ומרים ועלמא וימרו, אמן. יהא שלם הרבה משמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו, אמן. יעשה שלום בדרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל וימרו, אמן. So wonderful to be together. I want to say thank you. Thank you to Rabbi Mintz, who came specially from San Francisco to give this Dvar Torah and to bring the memory of Zerach Bat Asher, and which, God willing, she's going to come back to us. And I know many people have been asking me that I haven't written in my newsletter. I was so much dedicated to family and to thinking. So I'll be back. Have patience with me. More things are coming up very soon. So I started with a nigun from Rev David Zeller. So let's finish with that same nigun again. Okay, let's stand up if you can. can dance here from this dance. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la.
Shabbos,
soll sein, Shabbos.
Chazak, chazak, v'nit
chazak, chazak, v'nit chazak. Shabbat, shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
In silence for a moment, with strength, with a lot of hope, with a lot of blessing. Shabbat shalom, chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Strength, and let's strengthen ourselves. Shabbat shalom.